Okay, so I got a couple quick updates. Welcome everybody to the Shared Visions community meetup for March 11th. Some quick updates on stuff. Still setting up the new company for Step into Vision, and I did get confirmation that we have been assigned a DUNS number, but we haven't actually received it yet. But as soon as we get that, then we will set up the Apple developer account, and then we can actually use that to invite some of the developers on the team, particularly to start testing the Apple hosted background assets features and working out test flight stuff. So that should probably be this week. I got the confirmation email from them yesterday that it was approved. So just they said it could take 48 hours to actually receive it. Um, Also, another quick update, Matt Fisher can't be here today, but he sent me an update with a bunch of, he's been doing some research into the kind of contracts and disclosures that we would need to be able to gather media from people. And he's done some research on that and sent me a bunch of stuff. So I will look over that this week and try to compile kind of a list of templates and then run it through, particularly Paolo and anyone else who's worked in the media space, to try to get some feedback. We mainly just want to get something kind of in place before we start capturing footage kind of outside of our core group. And then the other relatively quick update, Mel and Ian and I met on Saturday or Sunday for Mel because she's in Australia. And we went over and refined the interview questions quite a bit. Um, Ian is really good at this. If you didn't catch that last time he was here, so Mel and I were just kind of throwing concepts at him, and he was just rephrasing things and rethinking things and ordering things around. It is a much shorter list now, and in particular, the beginning segment and the ending segment are nice and short, and we really focus on the things that people are doing in the present. So kind of the next phase of the project while we're doing all this technology setup is to maybe pair up and do some interviews with each other. These could be mock interviews or we could actually try a real one. But we don't necessarily need to do a whole call for the whole community to do it yet. We want to just do, the dozen or so people who show up to these meetings. You know, Mike and Paolo could interview each other, or Mike could interview me and I could interview Paolo, Paolo could interview Mike, something like that. Just kind of form a little chain of people. And even if we just do it without a camera rolling, it's more of just, do these questions work? Do they get people talking? Um, so that'll be kind of the next big push. And I'll probably have to work with Jimmy to see if I can set something like that up. So Jonathan joined us today. We had a discussion last week with Anthony from Acute Immersive, and we were talking about the two different types of media. Let me just share my screen real quick. So we've got these two types of media in the app, or media requirements. We have things that will be either in the app or bundled with Apple hosted background assets. So short video clips, 3D models, photos, and text, probably some audio files and materials, textures, things like that. The idea is to try to use background assets for all of this stuff. And this would be the things we can get on device before the user hits play and watches the entire documentary experience. And then we've got the larger content library, videos about a person, videos from an event or covering a specific topic. And those could be hosted and streamed into the app after the fact. So those are kind of our two requirements. And then the other requirement is that we're cheap. We don't have any money for this. So we're trying to figure out how to do it for free or very cheaply. It seems like we could do it pretty close to free with something like Cloudflare R2. It would take a little bit of setup. And then Jonathan and Anthony have both volunteered to let us use services that they've built for their businesses. So that may be an option as well. We could probably do all three or both, and just see what works and what is intuitive to people. We may want to, I don't know if it makes sense to have like certain types of content coming from Jonathan's new service or certain types of content coming from Acute, um, and just kind of this video hosted by a little bit of a shout out in the app, things like that. So yeah,
Yeah, I believe that that's also the intention a little bit behind Acute and me, to be honest.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, we would definitely want
But like I just don't see like if you want to build it from scratch, the streaming part. I believe it's doable, but I'm not sure you're gonna do a lot of economies, let's say, in terms of costs, because um, Acute and me have like really similar hosting resources. And pretty much like for the hosting, I don't know how they're doing it for the long content, but I'm hosting a hard copy on some AWS or some DigitalOcean, and then for the streaming part, is going through on demand through Spatial Gen, and with this option, you kind of have the best possible outcome because instead of like paying your subscription to Spatial Gen, you're just having, let's say, the costs of streaming. So it will depend on like how much streaming goes through. And as I proposed before, you, I don't know like what is the range or the final range of the app. Of course, I'm
Mhm.
hoping like for hundreds of thousands of views over the span of a couple of months. But
Yeah.
I believe that depending on the size of the final files, it shouldn't be too expensive to host in any case, even if it goes through a paid service.
Yeah, so I guess I just want to avoid. I kind of want to avoid it being too successful. Um, if this gets
So
millions
this is
of,
perfect for streaming then.
but if it gets millions of views and all of a sudden we get a $10,000 server bill, who's
Yeah.
stuck with that bill? Um, so I am kind of worried about that, and that's why things like the R2 is where it's we pay to store the videos, but we don't pay to access them or stream them. Um, is kind of compelling, but I don't know.
So
I,
I actually had a similar discussion with a client who wanted to create his own streaming platform because there was exactly this stuff of like at the beginning, I'm not sure it's gonna be successful, so there is no need to go into too much details about like who is gonna pay what. But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, if it's successful, which you want, then you need to know exactly like who's gonna pay. Um, I think you can quite easily because the videos and the API that's like in charge of fetching the videos or requesting the stream URL is going through the CMS that you were talking about, which in my case is my CMS. The CMS is actually keeping track of how many requests are going through, so you can always cap. So in case you want to, there would be like in something like the shared vision project, you would need to have a sort of a design of what is happening in case the cap is like, do we just don't show the video? Is maybe the catalog not available at some point during the month when the cap is passed, or something like that? Maybe this can be an option that would allow to reduce the cost and to keep the control as well, just to avoid the Versal effect.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose the library. I want the documentary to always be available. Like it's kind of a time capsule in time. But I
Mhm.
suppose the content library could kind of come and go over time. We don't necessarily have to keep every video that we've ever posted there, in the library permanently. It could be more of a rolling series. Um,
Yeah. There is also the distinction between what costs in those services and platforms in general is really the streaming. So you can actually always keep the download, which costs practically nothing. And this you don't have to cap it, and it's always available. And people, worst case scenario, have to download the content, which is
yeah,
also the best viewing experience. As if you don't, internet is not so good. And if there is like some streaming capability available, or the connection to internet is good enough, which is actually good to check before the people are clicking on the stream button, then you can let the people stream the content
okay.
if it's available.
I didn't realize there was a distinction there because my preference would always be to download a video. I never want to stream anything when I'm in a headset. Like
Yeah. Hmm.
I will like watch a YouTube video, but if I'm going to watch something in, you know, high quality, I want to download the whole thing first and make sure I don't have any hiccups or anything. But that's just a probably a learned habit of mine from, using headsets when we had a lot less bandwidth.
Yeah, like I think it's from like really connection standpoint to have like full quality of 8K, and I'm not even talking about 16K, is like something around 100 megabyte per second is the best bitrate, and not everybody can have like 100 megabyte
Mhm.
of streaming capability always on, especially if you're doing something else on the side or like have some servers running. So yeah,
Yeah.
download is still like quite primary option, and it kind of depends on like how you're structuring your experience around that. And
Okay.
then again, download would not cost so much. And the best part is that if you want to keep control of that, and let's say you have a server or service that you want to bring and that's like S3 compatible, you can do a policy of bring your own bucket, for example, with Immersa, and you plug in your bucket, and basically your content is on your server and streamed from your server.
Oh, that's cool. I did not realize that was an option. Alan, keep that in mind. Bring your own bucket.
Yeah, I like it. It sounds cool also. BYOB.
Yeah. Just a different B.
Yeah.
So what I'm curious, I don't want to spend the whole time on the video stuff today, but I'm curious, what does spatial gen do? I guess full stop. Like I know that it exists, but I don't know
Yeah.
what it does versus just
So
streaming.
Special Gen is a service that pretty much is what you were explaining before. So the part with the CMS and being able to have your videos hosted somewhere. It's doing that. So it allows you to upload your content on it, handle your videos, eventually like add some metadata, thumbnails, etc. And then you can create jobs to create streams. So the complicated part about creating all those bitrate ladders so that the you were having this in your slide before with adaptive streaming. It's handling this for you and it's creating you the HLS link. But actually, they go even a bit further because for professional creators, they allow you to upload raw content, so ProRes videos and things like that directly,
Mhm.
and it's handling the encoding for you. So instead of upload like having to process everything in DaVinci yourself and having to wait for ages for it to process on your laptop, or even you actually don't have the capabilities because maybe you don't have like a crazy chip that can handle that in a couple of hours, they handle it for you. At the expense, of course, to have to upload the multi-terabyte files initially. I think maybe Paolo will be even able to say even more about that. I don't know if you're using their services for encoding, but
I'm not using their service for encoding because I have it. It does take up a queue system,
mhm.
which takes quite longer. What I mostly use it for is streaming, creating the HLS links, combining separate audio tracks because I don't know how to set up an AWS bucket for this particular use case for streaming, which is why I know Mike's might be doing a session, and I'm very interested to explore that. So I upload my files. I upload several audio, several subtitles, several footages, and then the HLS stream is just generated out of that. I put it in my Xcode project, and then it's good to go, including the download file as well. It creates a smaller AIVU, so I don't also have to do that,
Yeah.
which I can do myself too.
And basically, Spatial Gen is really oriented towards infrastructure, where they're like focused mainly on backend experience, where they like your files, they serve it for you.
Mhm.
And then you have services like, Acute is based on that, Theater is based on that, Immersa is based on that, and a couple of other platforms for distribution that are more focusing on the UX part.
Okay. Fascinating. Wonder if we can, it's Zachary Hanshu's company, right?
Yeah,
Wonder if we can get him involved in the project too.
And
Let's keep bringing in all the experts.
Butterfield, his partner is the nerd. I met, sorry, I didn't say nerd, but he was the one I was geeking out about HLS streams and everything. I met him at the immersive event. So Zach is the person who does all the sales, and then I was talking to I forgot his first name because I may be mixing Michael Butterfield and Michaela, someone, but Michael. But I remember his name was like last name was Butterfield. We were talking about how his encoding at the time was breaking spatial audio, so we were talking about how to encode that properly. But he would be the one who would know more about how that process happens as the files get uploaded. But let me quickly just check.
Yeah, just for the little geeky part,
Michael.
it was a whole topic at the beginning, especially when Apple wasn't sharing a lot of information about a view format and even before a view format, to actually how to take spatial content and encode it properly so that the quality is kept in audio and in video. And they arrived on the market with their service to kind of, okay, guys, so that's the way to do it, and we package it for you. And if you don't know how to do anything, just like drop the files and everything is handled for you. And then, of course, like you can arrive with your final graded, color graded, encoded videos and just like stream them. So, because right now with this Apple Immersive Utility file, the muxing that Paolo is talking about, so the audio files, subtracks, and everything, you can handle them on your laptop directly with Apple Immersive Utility and prepare all the files already in AVU with everything included. But before AVU, it was really complicated
Yeah.
to find the proper way.
I
So th
remember.
this is probably the other bit of context for you is that we may have a little bit of Apple immersive video,
Mhm.
but I'd be surprised if it's more than 5 or 6 minutes. We will have hours worth of iPhone video and spatial video and persona video and stuff like that, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
will mostly be smaller video.
yeah, but then again, it's basically pretty much a good news because AVU content is way more heavy and will cost way more in terms of streaming because for streaming you pay the bandwidth, not the time. And if you have flat videos or even spatial videos, it will still be like way lighter and way easier to stream and again costs way less.
Mhm. Yeah, so we'll have some 360 and 180 from other cameras, but generally we're kind of making relatively light use of the immersive stuff because we're kind of bringing these video clips together in space themselves. So we may want to do some, you know, pull out a camera at WWDC and get some footage with an Apple immersive camera or something like that. Um, we have a big events like that, or if several people are in the same city interviewing each other, getting a group moment with them or something like that. But we don't necessarily want to do a 15-minute interview in Apple immersive video. Uh, Paolo
This one would be
did the
challenging to host.
he did the back of the napkin math on that. It's like, no, that's not possible. Awesome. Well, congrats on the launch of Immersa. Um, it's like the
Yeah, thanks.
second company in 6 months, second product.
Yeah, we're like so focused first like with the Stobo was more like for prototyping apps and for like conferences and things that are offline. And Immerso is coming more as like everything I learned with Stobo and building Stobo, and now more like focused with my own team in Warsaw on making something really cool for immersive creators.
Are you using Immersa in Stobo?
Not yet, but there is actually some discussion about that. I don't want to confuse because there is already a lot, but there is some ideas there to bridge because the sort of immersive catalog can be a good preparation for the apps later. But at the same time, I was talking with Stephen from the London office, and he was like, "Oh, that would be great if finally people would stop putting online apps that are just video wrappers, like a one video, and you're putting like it online, and it's not there is no like full immersive experience or full like specific catalog about something, and it's just like a one video thing. And it would be nice if people would start finally using apps like they're intended to, because there are some apps that pass on the Vision Store that shouldn't pass on the App Store, for example.
Mhm.
It's the old school web view thing where people did the
Yeah,
web view
exactly.
around.
Yeah.
It's that version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because today, if you try to wrap a web view and you put it on the Android store, then they're like, "Oh yeah, no problem." But you do this
Yeah.
on the iPhone, and they're like, "Hmm, what are you trying to do here?"
Yep.
Awesome. Well, that's good context. So I'll work with Alan on kind of, we're kind of forming this video streaming slash background assets team. Well, the background assets stuff is Tim's working on that, but um, yeah, we will definitely include you on this stuff and see how we can either integrate your service or integrate your expertise or put you to work. And I appreciate the offer as far as hosting. Um, you probably want if you do go that route of offering the project hosting, you probably want to set some limits and write it down,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
something like that. Particularly, I like the idea of either bring your own bucket or turn off streaming after a certain limit, uh, and just they could still allow downloads or something like that. So that may be a good approach.
Yeah, we can do that. And after that, basically, you can get like some also statistics, which will help you get the information about like what part of the apps, videos, or whatever is viewed the most. Um, if I have like when I did the first app on Vision OS, there was no question of background assets or like streaming
Mhm.
services or things like that. And the Accor All app is completely MDID content, so it's like quite heavy. I think it's something like 3 or 4 gigabytes even. And the experience is really smooth. Like when you don't use background assets, because then you don't have to think about loading or you don't use the any streaming capabilities. Yes, you have to wait for the app to download, but at the same time, you're kind of getting the best experience afterwards. So I've seen on the slides that you were talking about the some of the reality files. Those can be quite heavy, but then there were like also pictures and other smaller files. Best is still like to embed them, at least in my opinion, is still to embed them initially, because then you don't have like any loading experience, any user that is like coming back to you and be like, oh, my internet cut in the middle of background assets and I don't know how to come
Yeah.
back to it or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think we can bundle a lot of stuff in the app itself. We're going to use a lot of 3D assets multiple times and textures, materials, things like that. So that stuff, a lot of that stuff can be baked in. Probably all of the audio we do in terms of background music and things like that. Um, so it would just be the larger environments and the video files. Uh, it really depends on how, I guess we won't really know until we've got kind of a rough draft of the documentary experience, but like, is it under 4 gigs of video files? Can we stick it in the app and not use background assets? Potentially,
Yeah.
depending on how we encode it, if we zip it up.
And what about the, I guess, less clean, sorry, less Apple version of background assets, which would be to just download on demand when it's needed. I mean, I guess for reality views, it's maybe a bit complicated because it kind of needs to be part of the code, sort of. But
You
I
can,
never did it. Like I had a sort of fear of loading asynchronously
yeah,
reality views, but I don't know if it's justified.
you can't load reality views asynchronously, but you can definitely load reality content. So things like in the RK assets, you can make a whole project in Reality Composer Pro and then export it and host that as a zip and then unzip it on the device. Um, Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's not ideal, but it is possible. But I think Apple's path for that is use the background assets for things like that. So, and it sounds like Tom was mentioning on the dead platform that shall not be named that he's used it in Polio's Last Mile and a couple of other experiences, and said that there's some caveats to working with it, but it's proved really good for them. So cool. Well, thank you for coming and sharing your new app. Definitely for those who missed it, Jonathan launched a new app or a new service called Immersa. is your app public on the store or is that a
Yeah,
super
yeah,
secret?
it is actually. You need a little. There is a watch as guest, so you can like watch some videos that are shared through the platform.
Okay.
Um, I can share a link to a video
Yeah,
in
throw it in the
the.
Discord, either the Step in Division Discord or the Shared Visions one.
Yeah,
Uh, and
I
throw it
can
in.
drop a link. Mhm.
Awesome. So let's see. Just a quick update because I saw Tim pop in after the announcements. Tim, the developer account is almost ready to be set up. Heard from the Dun and Bradstreet folks that we have been put on the list to receive a DUNS number. So it's only like 3 more days in the Kafkaesque hellscape before we actually get a DUNS number.
Yeah, I could probably do some prototyping on my own account too. So
Okay.
if we're in a hurry.
No, no. All right. So let's see the rest of the agenda. So I really wanted to kind of throw it to Jeffrey and Mike on repo and what do we want to use for a project repo. We've got the Step into Vision GitHub organization where we've got some projects now. We could make a separate shared visions repo somewhere. We could make a separate organization if we needed to. Mike already used up the namespace for shared visions in that org. So we can use that, but we'd have to probably like reorganize that project a little bit. And then Jeffrey put together an Xcode project with like a basic folder structure and kind of a code structure that I think we should consider as well. So
Oh
it may
yeah.
just be a matter of copying some of those changes into Mike's project and just kind of redoing the Swift UI path to make that more of an example.
Yeah, and the stuff I was sending, I'm not trying to say this is the way it needs to be. I'm
Mhm.
just giving you how I do stuff when Justin and I are working together, that sort of thing. So he's used to me kind of jumping in. That's why the first thing I do is I make the icon and stuff like that. I just used what I had. If you've got something different, if you want to give me creative license, you can do that too. But for now,
Definitely.
I'm just
Definitely.
okay.
Oh
That's
yeah.
so kind of cautious. I work for a corporation, but yeah. Anyway, I can
We're
go
all wearing
nuts if you
cowboy
want me
hats on this
to,
project right now.
but
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Go
Cowboy it
go
up.
for go for a dark background, like a black or a dark color, in terms of
Okay.
icon. Because we definitely want to have kind of a relatively serious vibe. Um,
Mhm. Okay.
But I love the file structure. I was like, that's done. Somebody put some thought into it. I'm good.
yeah.
Like that. I'm. So
That's
maybe we do just because I know I've got my Blender thing up in the Step and Division thing. There's other stuff potentially coming down the line. So maybe we do just make another org. It's
Okay.
just a shared vision org and invite everyone. That's probably the cleaner way to do it.
I've done that before. Also, I've got a lot of friends at GitHub, just because we do so much open source stuff, and I got to speak at GitHub Universe. So
Oh,
if
cool.
we have problems, we can phone a friend and
Good.
get to fix the stuff. They've got engineers who do that, so which is nice.
I see
Okay.
Joseph writing down notes to make an org for shared vision right now. I
Yep.
could read it in your eyeballs.
Yep. I will make the org and then
Okay.
post about it in Discord. I'll just basically do a call for GitHub handles to invite. Um, I will make I will anoint Mike as the admin of that and then wash my hands of it. I'll call it Mike's Shared Vision. Just kidding. Um,
Pass.
in terms of contributing to, so if we create a shared visions project in there, we could probably just copy the project that Jeffrey did as a starting point, just copy the whole thing in. What's going to be the best way to say I've got an idea for something I want to work on? Do I just go grab it, make a branch, and send you a pull request when I'm done?
That's probably both of our preferred methods. Yeah, grab master or main,
Maine.
and uh, and uh, and yeah, experiment, build something fun. I mean, even all your UI things could start merging in there
Hmm.
as Tim starts playing with things, and we get the developer account active with some of our emails in there. We can all be playing around with
Yeah,
each
because
other's experiments. I think that's fine.
I
what I
do
was
love
thinking of is
branches. I do like branches to start with either fix or feat, FEAT, or chore. And then
Okay.
what you're doing,
Yeah.
just because that makes it easy for us to see them in a list of, oh yeah, these are the chores. This is where Jeffrey is cleaning up,
Okay.
Justin
Could,
can't name things properly. He can't
would
he
you
spells inconsistently consistently. So I
would
go and clean that stuff up.
would you be willing to put together kind of a
Yes,
contributing to this repo
no
reading?
problem. I've done
Awesome.
it before. So yeah.
Awesome. I was telling Mike probably last week or the week before, like, uh, my name is VR Hermit. I work by myself. Like, I don't know how to contribute to projects like this. Uh,
Yeah.
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 And well, also, if you haven't done it a lot, there's just a lot of different ways that a lot of different people like to do it. I'm down with fix feet underscore.
Okay.
That's great. Yeah.
Awesome.
okay. So yeah, I will get that set up, and I'll just start with the empty project. Well, I'll start with the project that you sent me and copy that in. And at one point, I'll probably switch over the project file to link it to the developer account. And then I need to invite you each to that to be able to, well, I guess you could still build, you could just switch it over on your device to do local build and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Once we start, don't really, we just start to run into problems the moment we want to save like any sorts of user defaults or iCloud kit or background asset stuff. We just, those are those things you just want to set up once and then they just work till the product
mhm.
launches, if it's possible, which we're laying the groundwork to do that. So,
Yeah. So I can
Um,
go in that project, I can make a branch and I will just like, I'll make a main window that can launch a empty immersive space that we could do the timeline development in. I'll make another one that can launch maybe a push window with a content library or an immersive space with a content library, some different options there. Um,
your radial menu.
yeah, things like that. I had an idea with those glass orbs that I think I'm going to try to prototype this week or next. We've got these glass these inside out glass orbs that we can put pictures inside of, and we were trying to think of how to relate them to videos. And if it's just a rectilinear video, we can move it over to that video, and like there's Paolo's video, there's little Paolo's little orb next to it. I was thinking, how would we use that? Would we still want to use that in a larger video if you've got something immersive? Um, and I was thinking of like moving the orb closer to the user and kind of projecting from it with some fake light beams. So kind of using the orbs as like, this is where the content is coming from.
my immediate thought was they should be floating like little bubbles, and you pop one, and then it.
Mhm. That's definitely
But
doable.
that's a Jeffrey thing. I do the crazy kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
ignore me when I say these things.
Yeah, we've definitely got stuff like that.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can.
I like physicality a lot. That's a lot of the stuff. Like when you guys started talking about metaballs in the Discord,
Mhm.
most of you are too young, I think, but there was this thing back in the early 90s called intros, and people were programming them on EGA cards and stuff like that. You had 256 colors if you were lucky. Um, but they would do things like make a lens that just had everything bend properly and stuff. And we got them. We'd go to the local arcade, see kind of cool stuff, and then try to duplicate it within code. And so a lot of this community right now, that's what it feels like. It reminds me of back then, the type of people that I was around. So anyway, just really cool to see this happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm firing up my simulator right now. Um, Let me share this.
I mean, honestly, in the vein of experimentation, you talked about popping a bubble, and I immediately was just like, okay, yeah, load up the asset behind it, occlude with a mask like a circle that like pops with it. You could get that effect pretty easily. I mean,
Mhm.
we're definitely still in the like let's play phase when it comes to the overall experience. I think that's what makes this fun for all of us to be playing with.
And there was one thing I wanted to mention to you too. I used to work for a company called Juxt Interactive years ago, and we did a project for Adobe called like Creative Brilliance. And it was like CS2, I think. So this was a while ago. But we had video, it was in a web page. It was a Flash, animation, but you'd have a video, and as you'd move the mouse, it would have trails behind the video itself. And the trails were the previous frames of that video. So
Mhm.
as the video's playing, it would have this almost like echo effect that you could move around it. And I was wondering if something now, frame speed is too fast now. Back then, it was cool. It might not be as good an effect anymore. It may be too much work, too much buffering that's happening behind it as well. But I was wondering if we could play with that effect.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway,
Send me a concept of that, and I can throw it in my
yeah.
concepts file and see if I can mock something up.
Okay.
So these orbs are kind of what I was talking about. These are inside out spheres with some Swift UI attachments inside, and we can put whatever we want. We could billboard the content inside. I didn't for this demo. And then each of these has a point light inside it. So when you switch over to here, I don't know if you can see in the zoom, but we're getting a little bit of green light cast on the inside of these domes over here. So we would probably only want one of these lit up at a time. We could maybe even hide the contents of them or turn them uh, right side out while they're not active. But these could be scattered all over the place, I think. And I think they go well with a lot of the visual metaphors that we've been talking about in the project. The idea of using lenses and light to like bring things into focus. And the other layout that Mike had alluded to, this kind of honeycomb layout. I think this is like the 2D version of those orbs. And we could potentially, have this 2D Swift UI view morph into those orbs when you start the experience. All of these fly out of the window and position themselves around the space. Um, it's all totally unnecessary stuff, but I think is kind of delightful. So yeah, if anybody hasn't, go through and grab a copy of this uh, concepts uh, Xcode project and just play around with it. There's a few of them in here. There's a basic cover flow example, which I don't know that we'll use. There is kind of a Swift UI. This is not Reality Kit. This is more Swift UI layout stuff. So yeah, there's a few things in here to that we could potentially use. I'm using that as just kind of a project scratch pad of stuff that I don't know if we're going to use it or not. Let me just throw it in here. And I like that structure. It's the same structure that I use on Step into Vision, where I just have one Swift UI file and I can do whatever I want as this independent scene, either a window, a volume, or a space. And then just, does this work? Do I like it? Let me just get it to the point where I can show it to somebody. So that's kind of what that project is for. And then if we like any of that stuff, then we can incorporate them in. That glass orb itself is actually just a shader graph material using, I forget the exact node, but it's like, I think it's called glass background or something like that. But there's a shader graph node that is the same material that Apple uses on the Windows. And you can actually color mix it with other things. So you can kind of do tinted glass in different ways. It doesn't get any lighter than that, unfortunately. It's not like the primary window color. It's like the inset color you would see if you have like a window and a button. It's like what you would see inside the button. I don't know why they picked that one instead of the main one, but it is pretty cool. Definitely worth making stuff out of. And I was really thinking of that. I don't know if we'll do this or not, but one of my ideas was if we've got 3D assets, so maybe Jonathan has like a 3D icon for Immersa. Maybe we present it with glass material. So it just looks like you can't really quite tell what it is until he pops up in the documentary and talks about Immersa, and that becomes the full textured, full colorful version of that asset. So kind of like placeholder, using glass as placeholder.
I have a really rudimentary version of the Vision OS Springboard on a draft project. So if you want to
Uh-huh.
include that in the project as a sort of. It's not the Springboard, but it's
Yeah,
our apps.
actually, we're gonna definitely we need like an about page of all of our apps and projects and stuff, and
Yeah.
having kind of a springboard looking one.
I can put it on a GitHub as a separate project.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Particularly if we did it as orbs instead of circles. If
Yeah.
we used
So also people are not confused if it's like, is it the Springboard or
yeah, did the app crash? Like what?
where am I?
Show me a bunch of app icons. All right. So yeah, I think we covered everything that I had on my stuff. What about the rest of you?
I don't have too much to add other than to say thanks, Jeffrey, for putting in some brain power on some structure. I really appreciated that, honestly.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
uh, yeah.
Um,
awesome. Tim, Alan, Paolo, anything?
I'm. Oh, I just want to see the code to make sure all um, the metadata of spatial audio and everything's just all there. Because I think like in the early days when we were converting too many footages to create HLS streams, we would lose APAC, ASAF within that conversion process. But now it's kind of clear. Just want to see like how that's working now.
Yeah.
The the other thing that I know I mentioned this, but we might do it like next time is like how are we going to premiere this in WWDC? Like even though we're still far ahead and we're still building, I know that we're just awaiting for an announcement and then we're trying to put our slot in there and I know we kind of targeted to have like maybe just one episode or maybe like a little sneak peek or something, but at least we know that we exist in the space. So that's
Mhm.
probably something we should think about like how does that look to the bigger audience there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if premiere is the right word,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
I definitely want to have a presence there because on the one hand, it would be great to have the documentary done so we could show it to people there, but at the same time, that's a great place to capture more footage and talk to more people.
Yep.
So we want a rough draft done. One of the things that Mike and I were talking about last week was breaking the timeline into segments, where each of these segments could be of arbitrary length, but we edit them and it becomes like a module of audio files and video files and 3D assets that is kind
A
of here's
timeline.
the start, here's the end, and then we chain these segments together. So maybe if we could have two or three segments that are like, okay, these are definitely done, but we've got these other ones that are roughed in that we can add to after we talk to people at WWDC or get contact information, things like that. Um,
Rough cut with a I'm blanking on the term, which is what we do in film where it's like it's like a preview where we show it to the audience and then we get their feedback and then we just
mhm.
change it. Yeah.
At the same time, we want to have something polished enough to show off because we will have the opportunity to show this to some pretty high level folks at Apple. Um, they are very much aware of the project and watching us from the sidelines. And uh, I think we have, I don't know if we can just put it on Tim Cook's head, like, but I think we could probably get close.
We can try.
Uh, Justin and I have some connections as well. So
Right.
if you need stuff sent and you're not getting a response back, we can kind of they're answering, they're talking to us now, which
Yeah.
is it took us years to build this relationship. So
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a similar story. Yeah. They didn't know I existed until about 6 months ago, and
mhm.
now they do. And one of the folks I was talking about asked me, "So who is your primary contact here at Apple?" I'm like, "You."
Yeah.
And they were mortified that I didn't have an engineering contract contact or anything like that. I'm like, no, like you're it.
Was that James?
I
James
can't
Yang?
I can't answer that.
Oh, okay.
James has been very friendly. I think on every time I'm there, he comes in and he says hi, and I'm like, it takes me like 1 second to remember your name. And he goes and says I follow. It's like there's so many names to remember, but I remember James. He's very friendly.
Yep.
Um, the the one thing that when we get to show it, we're gonna need to have a really good intended user outcome of delight, so folks would be like, whoa, even for the first 15 seconds,
Yeah.
first minute. So it just gets
It's
people
got to be dinosaur encounter
kind of like that,
wise.
yeah.
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 Yes.
The one thing that I always get excited whenever I demo, sorry, just like a side thing, is when we show something, one person's gonna say, "Why didn't you use this?" And then they realize that that feature has not been released yet. Like, why didn't you implement it that way? And then they suddenly
People
realize,
occlusion. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. When you do people occlusion, they're like, oh.
Yeah. Yep.
So
So we need to get a new GitHub org fired up. We need to get the project working, the contribution stuff working.
I'll work on that.
We need to get the backend stuff up and running, and the background Apple hosted assets. And I still need to figure out who's the best person or what the best process is to kind of build this little companion web app for making contributions. I don't think
I'll
we need that.
smash that out.
I don't know. I think you might have your hands full with the timeline.
I can make that entire site in 2 days.
It's not the technical stuff that is going to be time consuming. It's more of all the agreements that go along with it, and
That's true, right?
it's more
I
of
can give you I could give you a base plate in
yeah.
Laravel that would do 92% of everything you needed it to do very quickly,
Okay.
and you could just tweak it to taste, you know.
Right.
And also on just like some takeaways here, Paolo did give me a couple of videos that I haven't had a chance to test in a new timeline revision. So I'll make sure Jeffrey can get access to those too, because we won't want to commit any of these assets to GitHub.
Right.
It's just going to make pushes and pulls
LFS
either
and yeah.
not possible or incredibly slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll want to set up a little like pseudo dev pipeline for that until we get a better thing in place. But I remember you writing out a spec for that last week, Joseph, and I read through it and I thought, I've got all of that sitting in one of these projects I've done in the last decade. We could toss that together pretty fast.
Okay. So we do have there's a shared visions GitHub folder that I've linked in the Discord several times. If you want to make a subfolder in there for like dev assets or something, we can link to that either in the repo or in the Discord privately. We probably don't want to put it in the repo if it's going to be public. But just so when you go grab the repo, you know where the files are you need to go grab to be able to build and run it, or potentially just the one you had the first version that you had done, you couldn't actually build and run if you didn't have the video files.
Correct.
So maybe just code around that as well. Like these are missing, but you can still build and work on other features.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. That initial experiment was definitely not intended for public consumption.
Yeah.
That was intended for, here's the link to the Blackmagic sample video. Go ahead and download that and throw it in your project.
Yep. It worked.
It did work, but yeah, we'll get all that lined up here coming. And like, I just wanted to, he sent me, did you send 2 or 3 formats of different videos?
So I sent you 2 folders. The first folder is spatial, 180, and immersive, but they're all in the same time, so they would all be 14 seconds. The next one is a folder where the first video is spatial and the following video is immersive. So you want to try seeing it.
Oh, do we just lose his audio?
Maybe.
Uh-oh.
We can't hear you, Paolo.
We can't hear you, Paolo. We lost the second part of it. There. Oh, we got you back.
There you go. There you go.
That fixes most problems. Okay, so I sent 2 folders. The first folder is 3 clips, same duration, spatial, immersive 180, so you can use it to cut if you want. The second one is spatial and immersive, so you can try seeing what's the delay like with a spatial video, and then you switch to an immersive video. And then if you like, you can take the audio from the first folder or something as a bed to see how that feels like. Because you want to see, like, if we jump, do we get a 0.2 second delay, 0.1 second delay, or something? And maybe our audio will be like a a source of truth, and when we're transitioning, we can put some visuals like flying around or something. So that transition is not too harsh.
Cool.
So Jeffrey's going to be in Korea towards the end of this month, so we got to get the project done before the 22nd. He just
Hmm.
shipped the entire deadline.
It just means I'm probably not going to get on a Zoom call. Yeah.
Don't
But
blame me.
otherwise, I'll be able to see I'll wake up, I'll see the Discord, see all the cool stuff that was happening, and feel FOMO for like 2 weeks.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
But yeah, Mike, I'll send you the basically Claude plan that I came up with for that and see if it's useful. Um, I need to
Okay.
kind of review the contracts that Matt had sent us and see how we can kind of work in some disclaimers. Mainly, we just want to know, make it clear to people when you contribute footage to this, like what are you contributing and what does that mean? What I don't want to do, because this timeline is going to be so nuanced, I don't want to get to the point where we publish this and then somebody says, "Oh, take me out of this. I don't want to be in it anymore." Like that's going to break the entire experience. So like,
Cool.
Do you plan to have those interviews sort of lined up one after the other, or like more like a catalog to watch through? Sorry, I may not have followed everything before the what
so
today.
so we have I don't know how we'll release them, maybe one at a time or a bunch all together. But one of the things that Oliver and the UX team is working on is kind of a way of filtering that by different tags and categories of stuff. So tagging each video with some metadata, say like, these are videos from developers, and these are videos about game dev, or these are videos about community, things like that. Particularly even like slicing up some of the videos into time codes and like go straight to this. So that is none of that is necessary for 1.0, but they've got a lot of ideas of different ways to kind of carve up that UI either in Windows or potentially even in like a spatial gallery or like an immersive gallery museum type of
Hmm.
experience. So, and we've even talked about like making orbs orbiting one another, like little gravitational fields of like clusters of videos around specific topics. So a lot of like pretty out there stuff. Uh, it'd be fun, but none of that is. I guess to answer your question, we have a lot of stuff that will go in the library. It'll probably
Okay.
be 75 videos, around 12 to 15 minutes each, for just the folks who signed up today. But it'll probably be more than that over time. So, but I do like the idea of if we can get a test flight out, even if we don't have anything in the main documentary, it would be cool to start teasing out some of that content over time, um, even for just our testers.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't
You were also mentioning something about backend before.
Mhm.
Um, is it mainly for content distribution, or there is like any other part of the backend that you're thinking about for the whole app?
Um, I don't think there's much more in terms of like server backend stuff.
So it's mainly a CMS, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think we'll be able to use background hosted assets for just about everything else.
Mhm.
So,
So my the CMS of Immersa is actually based on an open source project that I have in Fast API. And if there is like I don't know if this can help or if it can be even like sort of plugged into it,
mhm.
but if there is like still need of help or even just like technical discussion about backend, I kind of drifted to Swift in general in my developer journey, but at the beginning I'm a backend developer. So if just to discuss or about something, I'm happy to jump in a call or something like that.
Awesome. I will try not to abuse that.
Yeah, no problem. Like it's really, I mean, I don't know if I'm in the wrong bubble, but it's really tough to find people interested, sorry, to talk about backend stuff. So yeah.
I definitely skew towards the front end side, so I'm always like, I don't know, that sounds really hard. I'm just not going to do that. It definitely affects the types of projects and products that I make. Like, well, I don't know, that's hard. I'm just going to do something else. And Mike's like, nope, just fire up a million servers at AWS for 5 cents a month. And I don't know how.
Yeah, no, I'm more on the spectrum of I don't want to depend on any services, so I'm building my own stuff,
Okay.
kind of. So my API, my things, my hosted server, my platform as a service. Yep.
Welcome, Mel.
Thanks, Joseph.
How's
Hi,
it going?
everyone.
Hey,
Yeah, good, thank you.
We're
Just waking up.
I think we're pretty much wrapping up today. I guess last thing we could do is we could show you all the progress on the interview question and see if anybody wants to volunteer to pair up in the next week or so.
Yeah, let's see the questions. I would say Paolo and I are almost always both up way later than we should be in Pacific Standard. So we should probably do a late night test session one of these nights. We got green bubbles till 1 a.m. sometimes lately. So.
I just think each of you should be interviewed by someone significantly lower energy.
Ah,
Yeah, maybe.
Like you're both so high energy, it could be kind of
You,
chaos.
Mike, I want to send you the whole video clip of the interview I had myself because I realized I had the whole canvas. So I was walking around my room and then I would like pick up a toy and then I would say like, that thing with that person crossing the ridge. I get a ruler, put it by the camera, and then have like a little toy walk forward just to simulate that moment. So I just wanted to see like, I wonder how that feels to the user. But
Okay.
that's not in the clip. I just cut it out because it was quite long, but I can send that.
All right. Can you all see the questions?
Yep.
Okay. So we still need to work on the actual introduction a bit, but this is kind of starting in the question chapters. The way that we are kind of working it now is we've got a short introduction, a little segment on past, a little segment on focus, and then the bulk of the experience being in the present, and then a little bit of future and a little bit of community, potentially segueing into credits at the end. And so this structure hasn't really changed, but some of the naming of the stuff has. The past questions in 1 minute or less, we definitely added that because everybody that we asked had a tendency to give us their entire resume. So in 1 minute or less, what were you doing prior to Apple Vision Pro? Just getting a little bit of background. This is when we would throw up their name in a card, maybe the name of their company or their app or things like that. And just grab some clips out of that. Then we have these focusing questions of how did you react to the WWDC keynote where they announced Apple Vision Pro? That is kind of a catch-all for folks who watched it live, folks who didn't, anyone who happened to have been there that week. Did you expect it? Things like that. And then kind of leading up towards the launch and acknowledging the very different experience worldwide. It was very much a US centric launch. So, what was your path to launch day? Did you have an app ready? What did you do to get your headset for people outside of the US launch window? How did you get your Apple Vision Pro? So, this is a good opportunity for anecdotes like what Tim was telling us about traveling to get his headset. Tom and Tina traveled to get theirs, things like that. And then, how did your first experience with Apple Vision Pro affect you? So I think a lot of folks might have anecdotes about trying it for the first time or experiencing some spatial video. Particularly the one for me that stands out is that um, I think it was called Elevated. The woman walking across the tightrope out in the middle of nowhere. It was just terrifying. I was scared that I was going to knock her off. So yeah. Why did you decide to focus on spatial computing? What aspects of this technology inspired you to build something? So not necessarily getting into what people were building yet, but kind of was there something, immersive video or Swift UI and Reality Kit or something like that that really made you say, like, I really want to make something with this? And then have you made any sacrifices to focus on Vision Pro? So we got some different examples of that. And then using that as kind of a segue into the main experience of what people are actually doing. So we kind of renamed this the experience section instead of the present section. And this is focusing on building, telling stories, using the headset, creating stuff, connecting with people, all that type of stuff. So what kind of things have you been working on and building? Any light bulb moments? Any moments of doubt or uncertainty? Did you ever feel like giving up? Did you overcome any barriers or blockers? So I think we're 3 versions into Vision OS, and I think each one of those versions have unblocked certain people. Just in now, I've got this feature that I didn't have before, like things like that. What kind of skills did you have to learn? I particularly want to hear from folks who had I had to learn Swift for the first time, or I had to learn 3D graphics, or I had to learn a different way of working with storytelling or things like that. Tell us about any frustrations or difficulties you've had. Uh, just kind of a little bit of room for venting about either the headset or the development experience. What was your favorite thing to do with Apple Vision Pro? So, we want to have a little bit of negativity and then follow it up with like, hey, this is actually kind of great. So talking about, things that you do in the headset, whether it's space-time calls or hanging out in space or watching immersive media or playing games. Or for a lot of people, it's like doing demos, putting other people in the headset. Share some of your highlights from the last couple of years. And this is kind of a longer question. So if you look at these, if this is a 20-minute segment, I could see a lot of people spending 10 minutes here, just like telling stories or anecdotes about what they have done with Vision Pro. So, I could talk about going to a reality hack or participating in the Vision hack, things like that. Seeing your app for the first time, using FaceTime or SharePlay. And then what are some of your most powerful memories from using Apple Vision Pro? Uh, yeah,
Yep.
tons of stuff like that. The Metallica concert stands out to me. Um, has Apple Vision Pro changed how you work or live? So just kind of, has this actually done anything for you? Not necessarily as a developer or business owner, but like, has this changed how you actually interface with computers or anything? And then kind of rounding that up to the future questions, what have been some unexpected rewards from your work or spatial computing in general? This was the last question that we added, and Mel is still we're still thinking through this one, but like we wanted to capture this idea of like you've potentially gotten something out of this experience besides what you set out to do. We're trying to figure out how to ask that. Are you building something new or working towards a goal? So some of us are working on businesses or new apps or careers, things like that. And then uh, a little bit of speculative. What do you want to experience in an Apple headset? So kind of a wide open question that could be about Vision Pro 3 or a pair of AR glasses or things like that. And then kind of rounding things out at the end with the community. So what led you to seek out a community? How did you find your community? What kind of impact has the community had on you? And particularly taking a moment to call out friends or mentors or people who have helped you or lifted you up or things like that. So we want to end on kind of a little bit of an emotional side, but that could be like, talking orbs while the credits are rolling, things like that. So what do you think?
Looks good.
It's a lot shorter.
This is the shorter version.
Yes, this is half the length of what we had a week ago.
I listened to a couple of podcasts with like developers that went through a bit similar plans, and I think one thing that the person who's doing the interview should be super aware of is that when we're getting a stage to talk about what we're working on and what we're building, especially in the Vision Pro community, I feel like you can really get out of context really fast.
Yeah.
So the person who's doing the interview should have like practically a training. I think like those propositions you were doing before of like test driving the interview is really important because you need to like recenter the person. I have this a lot with clients, but with people who are like talking about their work, I'm like having meetings that's supposed to be 30 minutes and then it's like 2 hours. It was super interesting,
Yeah.
but really complicated to watch after.
Yeah, we definitely want to. The goal is to get, a 15-minute max conversation with folks. We probably edit that down to 8 to 12-minute video for the
Yeah.
library, and then give, our editors for the main timeline would just pull clips out of that as needed.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, we don't want it would be easy for any one of us to go on for hours, but we do need to
Yeah.
um,
Do you plan to actually do like all the episodes as a podcast as well, or not at all?
no, not necessarily. I think we could probably just release them in the app and probably tease out some, like, share some clips on social media to try to drive traffic towards the app. But I definitely think we are starting a podcast for Step in Division, so I think there are a lot of opportunities for longer follow-up
Okay.
discussions with folks in that. But I don't think we can't guarantee everybody will be in that podcast because where it's like a bi-weekly show that it would take us years to do the whole community. But
Why do you have people interviewing other people?
so the main reason is we have a lot of introverts in the community. So we have several people who will actually be doing interviews when we actually start the process. But even if the clips that you see in the documentary, you won't necessarily hear the interviewers much or at all. In the library, you may, but the main reason was we need, you can't just hand this list of topics to someone and expect them to talk. They need to be kind of prompted and ask follow-up questions and having someone else there, even if it's just someone in their ear pods, talking to them while they capture a spatial persona or something like that. So not everyone will do this in person, but just making sure that nobody has to do this alone because it's really hard to just point a camera at yourself and start talking. And a lot of people just can't do it. So
Yeah, introvert or extrovert, because I'll rap for hours on a Zoom call, but if you put the dead eye of a camera in front of me and want me to monologue like I'm Conan O'Brien, I'm just like fumbling over my words. It's crazy.
mm,
Same. Yep. I can't do it.
Yeah, you want to kind of
But
correct yourself all the time. Like you're like,
oh
no, let's
yeah.
redo.
Yeah. Stop. Okay, here, hold on. Let me redo it again.
Hmm.
Yes. I actually write the scripts and I have a teleprompter. And even then it's garbage. But there was a magazine and I can't remember what it was called. It was basically actors interviewing other actors. And what I liked about that is you got both. And this is like a one-way thing. And I was just wondering if you were trying to pull in like a little bit of back and forth with that or not. I don't know.
I think just depending on context, we might, particularly like if you think about some of the questions, like what kind of things have you been working on? Um, we may hear, or, that question may be asked 75 times by 75 different people, but we may use the audio from one person asking that to introduce that segment of the documentary. And see lots of people answer that. So things like that. And
Okay.
we wanted to have this, these questions are a guide rather than a prescription. So we
Yeah.
want people to be able to
Flow.
flow in this order, but
Yeah.
have the ability to go off.
Right.
So yeah, that's the main point. So yeah, Paolo, Mike, interview each other. Any other
I mean,
volunteers?
I'm down to do it with someone else too, and like uh, it might be worth exploring some different. I mean, we might end up having 3 or 4 people that are just really good at
Oh yeah,
interviewing and hitting the points, right? And so,
and we had
I,
people sign up specifically with interviewing skills, so we'll hit them up. We'll probably want some either Mel or someone on the story team to kind of organize those folks because we have several
yeah,
people in journalism and related trades.
Fantastic.
yeah. Paolo and I will just get into a conversation where we're trying to interview each other, and then we end up with 47 minutes of just tangent
I
conversation.
think
And it's like, well,
I think
12 minutes of
yeah.
this is usable.
No, I
That's
think
why
it's
the questions are important. Like when I'm interviewing you guys, what I do is I always have notes, and then I kind of bring you back to the notes. Or if you
Mhm.
say something that makes me think of another question, I'll jump into that question. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I
The
don't know if
tangent
it's
that
like
happens.
still a possibility to do those interviews, but I would be up to interview or being interviewed, any of them.
Mhm.
Awesome.
I don't know if anyone wants to pair up soon. I don't know if it's again open or not. Sorry, I was not like following too much in the latest weeks.
We even I need to do a one-on-one anyway to go more into immersive. So why don't we pair up and interview each other sometimes, like on FaceTime or something?
Yeah, yeah, if you want. Yeah, would be awesome.
Do we did we ever know if our interviews would be in persona or in real person?
It's going to be entirely up to the person shooting. So if I want to record in spatial video, then I'm going to sit in front of a nice environment and frame myself and probably have an AirPod like out of frame or something for the interviewer. Other people may want to film in person, if people are in the same city or same or near each other. Um, there could also
So
be spatial persona stuff that's a little trickier because you have to figure out how to actually get good video out of them without all the head movement. Um, so
I just did that yesterday. I was doing a demo of something and I was constantly looking. There were people coming behind me and stuff and wondering what I was doing anyway. And so I'm looking around, watching the video afterwards. Oh my gosh, I got sick.
yeah,
So yeah.
we don't want to.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know
yeah.
if there's like this something where it's like at some point you forget you're in a persona, so you start like looking the person in the eye. But at the
Yeah,
beginning, especially for people who are not used to it, I don't know why, but I have a human in front of me. I'm like totally fine, can watch each other. Like there's a bit of eye contact and it's fine. But in persona, especially when the other person is like typing something or like they're clearly doing something else, then you're like, sorry, I don't want to intrude your privacy. I'm gonna look on the side now. I don't know if I'm the only one to have that, but yeah,
Yeah.
during meetings
Well,
it kind of gets awkward sometimes.
we'll need B-roll too. I know that's been like resolved in I saw that in the comment, but the B-roll would be very helpful for transitions and details and everything.
hmm yeah,
Because yeah, we're gonna need a ton of B-rolls. Like
hmm
I don't know, yeah, like be nice to see what if some of the Southwest stuff is available. You can show the warehouse or anything. I don't know, maybe something. We just need like close-ups of the Vision Pro, someone putting it
hmm
on, attaching, switching. It's I don't know, a bunch
Oh,
of
well,
stuff.
use the video then that Tim posted of all of us. I'll send it to you again. It was on LinkedIn. Where we talk about mock through. It's like an intro
I
thing.
saw that. Yeah, I
Um,
saw that. Yep.
if you're like, oh, this, but I want this,
Mm, yeah.
give me a strike list. I'll go in, I'll get Tim to do it. We'll pull in our boss. I mean, that's
Mm.
not
Or
a
just
problem at all. So
can I
yeah.
get a longer segment of this shot that you cut for like 2 seconds, something like that?
Yes.
Like
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure there's a
Or
longer shot of
in the airport experience where there's stuff that's already set up and as we're walking around and everything. Yeah, okay. We can we didn't think to go spatial too. Okay, I've got some ideas.
okay.
I'll
that.
I'll do some stuff
I
next
was
week.
I
So
know this is like a conversation later. It's like converting some footages to spatial if it contextually makes sense, like
mhm.
because
Hmm.
our interview shots will be spatial, and then if our B rolls are not spatial, I would have to convert that to spatial so the eye just doesn't get like
Right.
shocked
Yeah.
in that moment.
Yeah,
Mm, okay.
yeah. I think I'll
Side
have it.
question, but Paolo, what are you using for making the shots spatial? Like, do you have like a specific software?
I have several specific softwares
If you have
that
some
are
links, I'm really interested because I'm I'm trying to find a good one. It's not like always good quality, I would say.
As what Apple has told me, they use several shots to upscale their stuff. So not
Okay.
one solution is perfect. So like they use Topaz and DaVinci, and there was another one that was an open source one that they used to upscale and noise corrector stuff. So for turning things spatial, there are many ways, but probably the best way to turn something spatial is to create a splat of it per frame or something, but I don't know.
So you're telling me there is not a single platform yet that does it as a service?
There is
Hmm.
spatial media.
Third
Spatial,
company coming soon.
there is Spatial Video Studio, Spatial Media Toolkit, but they're all doing like a particular type of method that's different. And then there's like GitHub projects that have
Okay,
been
okay.
open source that I'm looking at.
So, Tim from Vision Pros podcast, sometime in the fall, he was talking, I forget who he had on, but they were talking about Spatial Media Toolkit. And the conclusion that they reached was basically capturing 4K video on an iPhone and then converting it to spatial, you get way better results than capturing spatial video with the same phone. It's just way more
Okay.
compelling content.
It makes sense. Got a lot more resolution to work with
Mhm.
and unlimited compute time versus capturing in real time. So
Yeah. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.